Tyson Fury has basically built a cult around him over the past 6-7 years. It's a load of people who have been sucked in by Fury's rhetoric, by his personality, by his boasts and bold claims. They've been bamboozled by him into believing that he's some type of heavyweight Mayweather, and he never was. But of course, this is the power of cult leaders, right? They cause people to become completely detached from reality. And that's what Fury did. So let's talk about some of the cult members. Now, this is not a real cult. I'm being slightly facetious here. But in the boxing sphere, we can look at it as something like a cult. So in no particular order, I'm going to mention these cult members. The first one is Kevin Barry, the former trainer of Joseph Parker. Kevin Barry, for several years now, has been nothing more than a Tyson Fury fanboy. He's still at it even now. Kevin Barry was interviewed the other day and he said it would be absurd to suggest that Alexander Usyk won any more than one of the first 6 rounds against Tyson Fury. Kevin Barry put the pipe down. I don't know what you got smoking in there, but you need to put it down and stop it. I've done a video, which I'll be uploading to my Patreon page, where I go through the video footage of the first 3 rounds of the Usyk Fury fight in slow motion, zoomed in, so you can see exactly who's landing what. And I can tell you for a fact, not my opinion, Mr. Kevin Barry, a fact, that Alexander Usyk landed significantly more clean, effective punches in those first 3 rounds than Tyson Fury did. Power shots to the body and to the head. This is a fact, Mr. Kevin Barry. And you've got the gall and the audacity to come out and make out as though Usyk only won one of the first 3 rounds. You're talking rubbish. I'll come on to Eddie Hearn in a moment. But Kevin Barry's been one of these guys. Very curious thing. You're supposed to be a trainer of fighters, but all you seem to do these days is just fanboy for Tyson Fury. What's that all about? Next one on the list, and one of the worst offenders, Billy Nelson. Silly Billy Nelson. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. I mean, obviously, he's always talking up his fighter, Martin Bakole, as he should, as he's supposed to do. But incredibly, he talks Tyson Fury up even more than his own guy. And that's a massive problem. It should be a massive problem for Martin Bakole because he's in the same division as Tyson Fury. And you've got your manager bigging up one of your rivals, what's supposed to be one of your rivals, more than he bigs you up. What's that all about? Silly Billy Nelson. You know, going into this fight with Usyk, Billy Nelson was totally dismissive of Usyk's chances. Totally dismissive. He advised people to go bet on Tyson Fury to win by stoppage. Fill your boots. I mean, this is how Billy Nelson was carrying on. Ever since this fight was being talked about 2 years ago, Billy Nelson has totally dismissed Alexander Usyk. Made out as though Fury had just run straight through. Now, if you were picking Fury to win the fight, I've got no issue with that. But to be dismissive of Usyk's chances, to make out as though he's basically got no chance? What brand of crack are you smoking, Billy Nelson? You're a boxing man. You're supposed to know better than that. But again, you're another one of these guys who got sucked in by the Fury mythology, by the Fury cult. Maybe you're too close to the team, I don't know. And it's funny watching Billy Nelson now after the fight, trying to distance himself from his previous comments, saying, oh, well, you know, I spoke to Sugar Hill and he said that it was going to be Tyson Fury fighting Kronk style, but that wasn't Kronk style, was it? No, Billy Nelson, your judgment was so off. It's not even funny. Come up out of that Fury cult, and now that the cult leader's been taken down, you're probably going to be scattering anyway. But yeah, silly Billy Nelson, Fury cult member. The next one is Joe Gallagher, aka Splinter from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This guy the other week was saying that Tyson Fury is criminally underrated. Joe. No, it's Usyk who's always been criminally underrated. Fury has been criminally overrated. Joe Gallagher, are you nuts? People have been running around calling Tyson Fury the greatest heavyweight of all time. He was calling himself the greatest heavyweight of all time based on only having 6 world title fights before Usyk, 3 against the same guy. Jokers like Simon Jordan and all these other people in the media saying he's the best of his generation when he hadn't proven it, when he'd never become undisputed. And you've got the audacity to claim he's criminally underrated? What are you talking about? The guy he was about to fight, Alexander Usyk, he's the one who's been underrated all these years, Joe. Get it right. He was yet another one that got sucked in by Fury's rhetoric and Fury's mythology. Next one on the list, Dominic Ingle. Honestly, these guys, these British trainers who are all up Fury's backside, they should be ashamed of themselves because Fury has been lying non-stop for the past 6 years, gaslighting, conning the fans. then none of these trainers say anything about it. None of these trainers even want to acknowledge it. When people criticize Tyson Fury, rightly so, for lying and gaslighting and conning people, all these guys do is come out and defend him. Defending bad behavior, defending dishonesty. Dominic Ingle's another one, dismissing Alexander Usyk's chances. What a joker. Sucked in by the Fury cult. Then we come on to Simon Jordan. Now, Simon Jordan's not a boxing man, so I'm not going to go as hard on Simon Jordan as I just went on those guys, because they're boxing men. They should know better. Simon Jordan, I think, got sucked in because of his association with Frank Warren. He seems to be in Frank Warren's pocket for some reason or another. I know he lately has been debating Frank Warren a little bit, and, TalkSport got banned from Fury fights and all this type of stuff. But yeah, Simon Jordan, this association with Frank Warren, I think that's one of the main reasons why he turned into this Fury fanboy. I don't think it was really Fury himself that he was sucked in by, but more so Frank Warren and Frank Warren's rhetoric about Fury. Then we move on to Gareth A. Davis, and, I've explained what Gareth A. Davis is many times in the past, but just to sum it up here, in the Bible, and I'm not a Christian, by the way, I'm not a religious person, but in the Bible, there is a line where God says words to the effect of, "You are neither cold nor hot. Because you are lukewarm, I shall spew you out of my mouth." And so what God is talking about in that verse is basically fair weather friends, glory supporters. That is what Gareth A. Davis is. He's a middle-class guy, talks in a bit of a plum accent, in a working-class sport, and he doesn't quite fit in. Because of that, he's tried to attach himself to what he believed to be the strongest character in the sport, Tyson Fury. So years ago, he started sucking up to the Furies, talking about how, he's an extraordinary character, Tyson Fury, isn't he? Extraordinary. No, he's not really that extraordinary, Gareth. He's just a liar, a gaslighter. So you could say that's extraordinary, but not in a good way. So Gareth A. Davis basically is just a weak personality, a guy who felt like he didn't fit in, so he just made a beeline for the loudest and superficially strongest character in the room, Tyson Fury, and started sucking up to him. And there he has remained ever since. But now that Tyson Fury's lost, and the myth of his invincibility has been dissolved, don't be at all surprised if Gareth A. Davis moves on. Because again, this guy is neither cold nor hot. That's who Gareth A. Davis is, bro. In the run-up to this fight, at the end of one of my videos, the Usyk-Fury fight that is, I compared Alexander Usyk and Tyson Fury to characters in the movie Apocalypse Now. I compared Tyson Fury to the antagonist in the film called Colonel Kurtz, and I compared Usyk to the protagonist in the film called Captain Willard, played by Martin Sheen. Colonel Kurtz was played by Marlon Brando. And Marlon Brando, minor spoilers here, in the film was a colonel in the US military during the Vietnam conflict who had gone rogue, and he'd formed his own cult in the jungle. And one of the members of the cult was an American journalist who Colonel Kurtz didn't really respect, but he allowed him to hang around. He referred to him as a mutt. That journalist is analogous to Gareth A. Davis. So you got Willard, Alexander Usyk, going in to take out Colonel Kurtz inside this jungle cult. And just like in the movie, Willard, Usyk, was successful. He took out Kurtz. And so what will become of Gareth A. Davis, the cult member? Anyway, moving on to the next one. Isaac Lowe. Isaac Lowe, a domestic level fighter. He's been living under Tyson Fury's wing for years. He pretty much exists for just that purpose, to be Fury's sideman and cheerleader. I don't think there's any other reason for Isaac Lowe to be in boxing at this point. He tried his hand at it, didn't go well. There's no shame in that, of course. He got in the ring and did his thing, and, I'm not knocking him. I never had a professional fight, but the fanboying for Tyson Fury is just embarrassing. To be a cult member like that, you've really got to have no dignity to pedestalize another human being to such an extent. Anyway, the next member of the cult is or was Joseph Parker. Now, I don't know whether Joseph Parker is still a member of the Team Fury cult, but he certainly was for a while. And the reason I say I don't know whether he still is because in the wake of Fury losing to Usyk, Joseph Parker hasn't come out and made these ridiculous claims like Frank Warren is making, that Tyson won the fight and all this stuff. No, not to my knowledge anyway. I didn't see him say anything like that on the broadcast. He was a little coy, but he didn't want to say that Tyson Fury won. If he was still in the cult, then surely he would have done that. And there was a point in Joseph Parker's career where, just like Isaac Lowe, his only reason for remaining in boxing seemed to be a cheerleader for Fury. His career seemed to be going nowhere. But after the Wilder win and the subsequent Yang win, he seems to have found some dignity again, some pride again, and he's distanced himself a little bit from Tyson Fury. A little bit. He's still friends with him and all that type of stuff, but he's not quite so gushing about Fury as he was a couple years back. And that's a good thing to see. Now, some people could put Shane Fury and Tommy Fury and John Fury in the cult, and I wouldn't necessarily argue against it, but obviously we have to consider the fact that they are his blood relatives. And so blood relatives are generally going to be biased in favor of their own, right? But what I will say is Fury's brothers and his dad and Frank Warren basically acted like enforcers for the Fury cult. Anyone who ever criticized Tyson Fury, anyone who ever picked against him in a fight, these guys would come down on them like a ton of bricks. Spencer Brown as well lately, he's been doing all that. That's Fury's manager. So you could call these guys the cult enforcers, the ones who try and keep everyone in line. Another Fury cult member is Johnny Fisher. Oh yeah, Johnny Fisher was constantly blowing the horn for Tyson Fury. I'm not even going to say pause on that one. Johnny Fisher. Bamboozled. Anyway, another person I should mention is Ben Davison. Now, I put a question mark next to Ben Davison's name because he was at one point one of the core members of the Tyson Fury cult. But at this stage, I'm not sure. He's obviously not as close to Tyson as he used to be, but whenever he talks about Tyson Fury these days, he chooses his words very, very carefully. He doesn't give a lot away. And I'm not sure why he's doing that. For example, when Mark Tibbs and Dylan White split up, there was no apparent or obvious beef or ill feeling between them, but Mark Tibbs immediately picked Tyson Fury to beat Dylan White. He had no qualms about doing that right after they split up. And this is often the case in boxing. When a trainer and fighter split up, the ex-trainer, in most cases, will be honest about how he thinks that fight is going to fare moving forward in certain matchups. They'll speak openly about what they think is going to happen. They'll give you a prediction. But with Ben Davison, he's very coy. Now, if he was still a fully fledged member of the Fury cult, then maybe he would come out and just be totally pro-Fury and act like Fury's going to destroy everybody. But the thing is, he's currently training Anthony Joshua. So how would that look if Ben Davison came out and started saying all that stuff when he's training one of Tyson Fury's rivals? He's supposed to be Team Joshua now. So like I say, I'm not sure if Ben Davison is still in that cult or not. And then you've got some people on the periphery of the Fury cult. I'm not going to say they're cult members, but they are people who started to fall under the spell. There's Dave Allen, who's obviously sparred Fury over the years and knows him. And again, he was one of these people that would speak so highly of Tyson Fury that he became dismissive of his rival's chances against him. And of course, he picked Fury to beat Usyk. He never gave Usyk much of a chance, from what I saw and heard. But again, I don't think Dave Allen was ever a Fury cult member full on, fully fledged, but he was sucked in by Fury's personality, sucked in by Fury's showboating. You know, I spoke about how fans can get sucked in by Fury's showboating, where he makes you think he's doing a lot better than he actually is. He distracts from what his opponent has actually landed on him by showboating. But a guy like Dave Allen, who's actually been in the ring with Tyson Fury, imagine what it's like in that scenario where he's showboating at you. You see the psychological effect it can have on a fighter like Dave Allen when he's probably taken worse beatings from other fighters in sparring. But because they weren't showboating after every punch and talking to Dave Allen, in his mind it didn't seem as bad. I'm speculating here, obviously, but you understand the concept. But with Tyson Fury, he hits you with a couple jabs and starts calling you a sausage and all this type of stuff. And after the fight, you're like, wow, this guy's really good. Whereas if you'd gone in there and he'd been silent the whole spar, no showboating, no trash talk, landed the exact same punches, you might have been, yeah, he's good, but I reckon I can get to him. They get sucked in by the Fury charisma, you know, the Fury spell. So I think that happened to Dave Allen a little bit. Because seriously, Tyson Fury, prior to the Usyk fight, had been dropped 7 times in his career. Otto Wallin was able to put hands on him. Steve Connor put hands on him. Deontay Wilder put hands on him in 2 of their fights. Why on earth would you think that Usyk would struggle to lay a glove on Tyson Fury? It's just bizarre that so many people got caught up in that. So again, Dave Allen, not a Fury cult member, but fell under the spell a little bit. All right, next person. Again, these are on the periphery of the Fury cult, not fully fledged cult members. Sergio Mora. Again, Sergio Mora was very dismissive of Usyk's chances against Tyson Fury. He actually said that Fury's defense will be too good for Usyk. I mean, again, I've made a separate video about this, but what brand of crack are you smoking, Sergio Mora? How could a guy who'd been dropped 7 times prior to the Usyk fight, who'd been hit big punches off Steve Connor Brenham, Nevin Pikage, Deontay Wilder in 3 fights. Or two of those fights, he was hit with a lot of big punches. Dropped by Francis Ngannou. How is a guy that's been hit so many times and dropped so many times by guys nowhere near as fast or skilled as Alexander Usyk, how could you think that that guy is somehow going to be like Pernell Whitaker in there against Alexander? I mean, seriously, Sergio, what were you thinking coming out with statements like that? How could you be so bamboozled to have this blind spot in your mind and ignore the fact, forget the fact that far lesser fighters were able to connect on Tyson Fury with no trouble at all, early in fights. Guys with slow feet and terrible footwork were able to hit him. Otto Wallin, who is at best a bootleg version of Alexander Usyk, he was able to put hands on Fury 5 years ago when Fury was a lot faster and sharper and younger than he is now. Somehow you thought that Usyk wouldn't be able to put hands on him. Are you crazy? Incredible. Sergio Mora is a boxing man. He should know better. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Then we move on to one of the most disappointing people to be sucked in by Fury's rhetoric, and that is Paulie Malignaggi. And this has happened recently. Malignaggi fell under the spell of Fury. In the run-up to this Usyk fight, he said, Fury at his best might be the greatest heavyweight of all time. Wash your mouth out with soap and water, Paulie. Based on what? Prior to this, he'd had 6 world title fights, 3 against the same guy. How on earth could you fix your mouth to say that that guy could be the greatest heavyweight of all time? What had he possibly done for you to utter those words? Like, that's shocking. And I like Paulie Malignaggi as an analyst, but dear, oh dear, oh dear. And he's coming out with a bunch of excuses, of course, after the fight. Oh, maybe Fury's punch resistance isn't the same, and because it was shocking the way Usyk was able to hurt him. Paulie, man's been dropped 7 times prior to the Usyk fight. It's unbelievable. Now, Eddie Hearn, I don't count him as a Fury cult member, a Fury fanboy or anything like that. I see Eddie Hearn as a Fury shill. That's what he is. He wanted Fury to win so he could do the AJ fight. And so the narrative he's trying to create now is that, oh, well, the Usyk Fury fight could have gone either way. So if he makes the AJ Fury fight now, rather than Fury going and having a rematch with Usyk, he can sell it to the public. Oh, well, this still could be the best heavyweight in the world in Tyson Fury against Anthony Joshua, because really, that Fury-Usyk fight could have gone either way, you see? Yeah, that's Eddie Hearn being a cynical businessman. This idea that it was a fight that could have gone either way is laughable. Totally laughable. Fury had 3 rounds in the fight where he was actually landing consistent power shots. Outside of those 3 rounds, it was all Alexander Usyk in the power shots department. Fury was just landing some flicking weak jabs for the most part. A lot of them just hit Usyk's gloves, but were being counted somehow as punches landed. Shocking. Many of them were missing completely. Even without the knockdown, I had Usyk winning by several rounds. If you're being generous to Tyson Fury, you give him 5 rounds. Anything beyond 5 rounds, you're just being absurd. Seriously. Now, exactly what I said about Eddie Hearn, same goes for Frank Warren. These are not cult members. Frank Warren was, and still is, an enforcer for the Fury cult. But he's not a member per se, because really for him it's just about business. He hasn't fallen under any kind of spell. In fact, there's a character in those awful Star Wars prequels. Is he called Sebulba or something like that? It's like a little flying creature. And I think it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, who's played by Ewan McGregor. And he tries to do his Jedi mind tricks on this flying creature, Sebulba. And Sebulba is basically like a used car or a used spaceship salesman, among other things. He's like this, cynical, shady business type character. And the Jedi mind tricks don't work on him. And that's how I see Frank Warren. Frank Warren's like that. Fury's mind tricks don't work on Frank Warren. With Fury, it wouldn't be Jedi mind tricks. It'd be, Sith mind tricks. Yeah, Frank Warren can't be bamboozled like that. But he's a businessman, and so he's going to say and do things that help his business, that help his brand. So that's all it is with him. Now, I know there are going to be several people that have missed out at a Fury cult or people on the periphery, but I'll be here all day. Because the Fury cult was quite big. So I'm just going to leave it there. The purpose of me making this video is to present an example of how people, including people who should know better, can get sucked in by nonsensical narratives when you've got a charismatic, magnetic personality like Tyson Fury. I say charismatic and magnetic, not to me, but clearly to a lot of other people. They were drawn to him like some type of tractor beam pulling them in, and they fell under his spell. This right here is Exhibit A. And so moving forward, people should be more mindful about how attached they get to these fighters. They'll be mindful about not allowing a fighter ever again, the way Tyson Fury did, to bamboozle you into thinking he's he's the best when he hasn't actually proven it in the ring by becoming undisputed. You should be wise to these type of tricks in future, where a guy is fighting a champion with 1 belt and is trying to freeze out the champion with 3 belts, saying, oh, forget about him, he's irrelevant. Me versus this guy with 1 belt is the 2 best heavyweights in the world. You should be wise to tricks like that in future. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Let this be a lesson to anyone who was ever sucked in by Tyson Fury. Don't get sucked in by a fighter like this ever again. All right, I'm out.